We have taken the following steps to restore law and order in our state, and you may be sure that the situation is under control and under constant vigilance of state and local authorities. We have proclaimed a state of emergency in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. A curfew has been imposed in Baltimore City from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. and in Baltimore County from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. except for officially approved emergency reasons. I have ordered state offices in Baltimore City and Baltimore County closed at 2 p.m. tomorrow to comply with an early curfew should that be necessary. And I have requested the business community to do the same. State employees who are residents of Baltimore City and County but who work in other subdivisions will also be released at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Executive orders have been issued prohibiting the sale of alcoholic beverages, firearms, ammunition, flammable materials, and liquids in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. The sale of alcoholic beverages is also banned in Anne Arundel and Howard counties. Every available unit of the Maryland National Guard has been fully mobilized and deployed within the city. In addition, at 6:11 this evening, I requested federal reinforcements to further secure the city. Attorney General Ramsey Clark agreed to immediately dispatch the troops. They should now be taking positions in the critical areas. These steps have been taken to control violence, save lives and property, and to bring about a swift restoration of order. I want to commend the overwhelming majority of our citizens, white and black, who have remained calm in these hours of crisis. I ask you to continue this example, to remain at home and obey the curfew. Even during the daylight hours, I strongly suggest limiting your activities so that your police, National Guard, and fire department may perform effectively. I urge all parents to exercise vigilance over their children. In the affected area, much of the lawlessness to date has been caused by unruly and unsupervised youths. Other youngsters whose conduct has been responsible and admirable could be endangered even by the most innocent sightseeing. To all who have been victimized, I pledge to you that all possible power will be exerted to restore order and security to your lives and to assist those made homeless by fire. To those few who loot and burn, we shall show no sympathy, nor will we tolerate those few who would take the law into their own hands. We have local police, state police, and federalized troops on the scene, in control, working effectively. We ask for no citizen volunteers, only common sense from our citizens. While today we are pressed to confront force with force, to put down violence and douse fires, the lessons of these past hours have not been lost on any of us. We know now, as never before, how vital is the law to our liberty. We know now, as never before, that violence is no friend to freedom and that the mob is no ally of civil rights. We know now, as we've always known, that where rightful grievances exist, we must redress them with speed and compassion. We know now that to move ahead, we must never stand still. We must not stand still for a violation of our laws, nor must we stand still for conditions which create hopelessness or despair. We must press on at once for the good jobs, the good housing, the good education, for all those of our citizens who have been long denied these opportunities. Let us rededicate ourselves to the unfinished business, not out of fear of reprisal, but out of certain faith that it is right.
I want to appeal to all the people of the city of Baltimore to remain calm, to be peaceful, that the National Guard, the state troopers, and the police department have the situation well under control. But there are certain things developing today that prompt me to come to the air and to request your assistance. First and foremost, please restrict your activities to the absolute minimum. Secondly, please do not take the liberty of getting in your car and going on a sightseeing tour of the areas that were destroyed or damaged as a result of last night's disorders. This particular request is prompted because we are developing a traffic congestion problem in this area. Third, we in the government at all levels are in the process of making a critique to determine just exactly how many persons were killed. As of this time, it's 4, 3 that could be associated with the disorder by burning, the injuries, the arrests, and I'm also going to have to call on the media of communication, and I say this in the kindest of terms, to be specifically accurate in detailing certain of the data that is being disseminated to the public. One, for instance, was a report to the effect that there were 750 fires in the city last night, when the truth of the matter is that while we had a large amount, somewhere in the neighborhood of 250, it was 250 fires. Only a few of them were of, a real a major proportion. I'm in the process now of meeting with the Adjutant General. I'm going to leave this press conference to meet with the Adjutant General, with the Governor, and with Chief Lally of the State Troopers to ascertain just exactly what will be our posture during the coming day and for the next couple of days. I think an announcement will be made after consultation with the Governor that a curfew will be in effect tonight from about 7 o'clock to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Well, I think that there was a considerable amount of damage done last night in Baltimore, but considerably less than what I observed in Washington the day before. It's bad. It's very bad. A lot of damage, unnecessary damage was done, certainly to no one's benefit. Certainly did not benefit any civil rights movement or anything else. We're patrolling the area now. The situation, I think, was pretty well contained by around 12 to 12:30 last night. We had no reports of any fires or looting or any incidents after that time. The situation in Baltimore right now, I think, is pretty much under the control of the National Guard and the police.
What plans do you have for your men this afternoon and tonight?
We certainly intend to keep them in action.
How many men have been committed to East Baltimore?
Into Baltimore? Well, I couldn't give you a breakdown on the actual areas. We wouldn't be. We'd have to even have a determination of which is East Baltimore and which is Central Baltimore. And we just soon not give the areas that thing because we're continually moving the troops. They're not placed in static positions.
What is your total manpower availability?
Better than 6,000.
General, have any elements come in from outside Baltimore to participate in
National Guard?
No, I meant elements from that might be disordered.
Oh, yeah. You mean the so-called outside agitators?
Yes.
Right now, I feel very optimistic about it, and I don't think it's going to get any worse. I think it's going to improve from here in.
Are there any reports of any looting or
Yes, there's been some. Of course, a lot of these stores are sporadic, hitting around the city, and stores that I don't think there's much new breaking in.
General, do you
but they have returned to some of the places that have not been boarded up yet or which haven't been carried.
Any injuries to guardsmen at all?
None whatever.
General, where did the disturbance first break out?
As my understanding, it was down in the Gay Street area.
General, do you have a breakdown on injuries and deaths?
I think the police can give it to you. We haven't attempted to maintain it because, of course, we came in well after the thing was started.
General, you said you had about 6,000 troops. How many do you have on the street at any one time?
Majority of them. We try to keep the greatest number possible on the streets and at the same time maintain an adequate reserve, which does not answer any question.
You have not indicated how many more will be coming in.
No, we're bringing we've alerted the entire Maryland National Guard has been alerted. They have not all been moved to Baltimore.
Have you conferred with the Negro leadership on this matter?
Not to a great extent. I've met with several of them just casually throughout the city, but not to go through any actual conference on the events that have happened.
Do you anticipate any such conference?
I'd be happy to participate in it.
You General, is there additional troops, General, thus far?
What?
Pleased with the performance of your troops?
Very much.
General, is there additional looting going on this morning in the Greenmount Avenue area?
There have been reports of sporadic looting rather generally throughout the area.
Did you send additional troops over there to help?
We've responded to them, and we've tried to put sufficient troops in the area to be able to observe and to arrest the looters. I think it's important to know that under the new law, the National Guard personnel have exactly the same privileges and rights as any police officer. They are privileged to make an arrest under this law.
Have you sealed off the affected areas from the public?
The only thing we've done in that line and on several of the extremely narrow streets, we have blocked traffic for in several block areas.
What do you think is going to happen after nightfall tonight, General? Do you expect to be able to keep the situation in control?
Yes, I certainly think that the vast majority of the people are going to obey the governor's curfew, as they did last night. Of course, last night it was set at a fairly late hour. It was 11 o'clock, and also it was announced rather late. And I think a lot of people did not know there was a curfew, but certainly everyone knows it by now, and I'm quite sure that they will be off the street.
What will happen to anyone caught on the streets after the curfew?
They have violated the law, which subjects them to, I think it's a 60 days in jail, I think is the maximum. I'd have to check that, and $100 fine.
General, how long had you been anticipating any trouble in the city of Baltimore?
I was completely surprised that any trouble occurred in Baltimore. I did not think it would happen, and I'm quite sure that it was just as much a shock to the entire community.
But you don't feel it was planned or organized in any way?
There possibly was some planning behind, but I've seen no indication, nor has anyone come up with any indication of organizing a ticket pin on any group.
Tonight in Baltimore, we experienced our first significant disorder. I am aware of the rumors and the counter-rumors which are running rampant in the city. My purpose in appearing on the air is to present to you a factual report on the events of the last few hours. At around 6 p.m. this evening, groups of teenagers began breaking windows in a small area in East Baltimore. Several fires were started. For the most part, the destruction and disorder in our streets has followed this pattern. However, it has spread, and it has become worse. There have been, in addition to the acts of vandalism, some acts of looting, and some acts of violence. I am satisfied from all accounts that what has taken place was, for the most part, spontaneous. However, these spontaneous acts were supplemented by some obviously planned attempts to create trouble. These acts make no sense and serve no purpose except to bring further grief, further hardship, and further disorder to the people of Baltimore. In order to contain these outbreaks of lawlessness and to prevent further outbreaks, the following steps have been taken. 1, every available policeman and fireman in the city has been called into service. 2, to supplement their efforts and to prevent the further spread of disorder, the governor, in consultation with me, issued 2 proclamations. The first imposed a curfew which restricts people from being on streets between the hours of 11 p.m. April the 6th to 6 a.m. April the 7th. The second prohibits any person from carrying firearms or any other dangerous weapon or inflammatory item. It also prohibits the sale of gasoline unless delivered directly into the tank of the motor vehicle. In addition, the National Guard, under the command of General Gelston, has been ordered into the troubled areas of the city. At this very moment, they are being deployed in our streets. I want to emphasize that the disorders have been confined to limited areas. For the most part, the city is calm and peaceful. In those areas of the city in which there is trouble, everything that can be done is being done. This is a time of trial and test for all Baltimoreans. I call upon all of you, my fellow citizens, to observe the curfew, to be calm, to be peaceful, and to have confidence that the steps we have taken can, with your cooperation, restore law and order and peace and peaceful progress in our city. I'm thankful to God that the good Lord was good to us to let us be able to go back into business tomorrow if all's well. And we had very little bit of damage, water damage, and a few windows broken. No looting in the store whatsoever. Thank God for that.
Does what happened here change your plans in any way in the future?
No, I expect to stay here as long as God gives me life. I know some of the neighbors are rooting for us that we should stay in business, and they don't want us to go away from here. And I can see by way of that our place was still maintained that they want us to be here, and I'm going to stay here.
We only got 2 broken windows. They could have looted us if they wanted to, but they didn't. As a matter of fact, some of the people from the projects came into our store this morning in groups saying to us that they wanted to apologize for our broken windows, that it shouldn't have been, and they even offered to take up a collection to pay for our windows. Not that we couldn't afford it, but their way of apologizing that our windows shouldn't have been broken. So somebody up there must like us.
I think to me it means that like the end of my life, the end of the world. when you go in a place and you work for 14 years and try from the bottom, and finally you try to make a living, and they come in 2 days and the wipe you out complete.
Does this mean then that you are completely wiped out?
That's right, sir.
Everything we had in there we wiped out. For hard working 14 years, we remained with nothing.
Completely wiped out.
And you won't open again?
No, sir. Will not open again. Will not get. Once I leave this corner, I will never come around this corner again.
To be honest with you, I don't even want to see that corner anymore. I'm just scared of my own shadow. People that you worked with them and you trusted them and they came in and you felt that they're friends. Many of them owe me money. I felt them my friends. And to go and to do things like this, I don't know what's going to be. I really don't know what we're going to do, how we're going to leave, how I'll get a job. I don't know what I'm going to do now.
A group of us who were identified as black civil rights leaders by Governor Spiro T. Agnew were invited to meet with him on Thursday, April 11th. Much to our dismay, we found that many black leaders who play important roles in our community were not invited, and those who tried to enter the meeting room were kept out. It became clear in the governor's remarks that this was not an oversight, but was intentional. We who attended thought that the purpose of the meeting was to set forth a positive approach to the serious situation. Instead, we found that the governor's apparent intent was to divide the black community. We are shocked at the gall of the governor suggesting that only he can define the nature of the leadership of the black community. Agnew's actions are more in keeping with the slave system of a bygone era. At a time when the chief executive should be calling for unity, he deliberately sought to divide us. We are all militantly against the continuation of a system which denies and demeans black people. Shocked at the tone and fervor of the governor's remarks, a number of us decided that the meeting held no possibility for constructive action, and we left in disgust and anger. While indeed we were shocked at the governor's audacity and temerity at directing such remarks to those assembled, few of any of us were surprised at the tone the meeting took in view of recent actions of the governor in handling problem situations. We make specific reference to the governor's intemperate refusal to meet with students at Bowie College who were attempting in an orderly and responsible way to have resolved a number of serious and obvious problems at that institution. We're also reminded of the governor's refusal, after repeated requests from various elements of the community, to honor the memory of the late Dr. Martin Luther King by closing state offices as a gesture of respect. It is not our desire to fan flames of violence. We have worked hard to prevent violence, senseless killing, and the maiming of the innocent. To a man, we all work diligently in trying to bring about a situation of tranquility in our community. We have been pursuing this line since disturbances broke and since the situation has quieted. Unfortunately, all too many of the voices being heard from the white community are apparently in agreement with the governor. For example, the city comptroller, Hyman Pressman, made a shameful statement to the Board of Estimates this morning, but we have learned not to expect very much from him. We urge those voices of goodwill that are now existent in the white community to speak out urgently for justice, truth, and peace.
Basically, we're trying to help people who have been the victims of looting and burning damage to get redress from their insurance companies. Many of them aren't familiar with how to do it. Our men, I think, can expedite their recovery.
And where do you go from that point?
The next thing, I think, is to make sure that in the future this coverage is continued and that people who seek coverage will be able to get it. There is, of course, the problem that companies are private companies and they don't want to write insurance where they're likely to have losses. One of the phases of that is, of course, the federal reinsurance program, but in the meantime, why our efforts will be directed toward seeing to it that people who deserve and desire insurance can buy it.
Be careful with your bags because they're kind of weak.
Okay. Find your name and address.
You got bread, chopped meat, you got rice, dry green beans, and raisins. All the things you need to last you until, market's open tomorrow morning.
Thanks a lot.
How about keeping your line straight? That way we can get everybody through the line in a hurry, okay? I just want to make sure. Anybody in this line been burned out? Anybody have any sons or daughters? Anybody missing? Okay, if you cooperate with us, we'll get you away from here in no time at all.
Now that the acrid fumes of smoke have cleared away, and now that the reverberations from the sirens have ceased, I hope that the people of our city have learned something as a result of this terrible catastrophe. It should be crystal clear to everyone that this is a time where the responsible people of this community, both white and non-white, must see the urgency of sitting down together and ironing out our difficulties. No city, Baltimore or anywhere else in the nation, can ever hope to exist if we don't come to a situation where decent, responsible, God-fearing people run the community.
My purpose in appearing before you this morning is to report that I feel that I have worked myself out of a job here in Baltimore. My mission, when I assumed command of the forces last Sunday evening, was to restore law and order to the city of Baltimore, and I believe that mission has been accomplished. I am told that the incident rate for the last 3 nights and 2 days has been lower than occur during normal circumstances. I'm sure that the mayor and the governor also agree with this assessment of mine, that the federal forces mission has been accomplished. As a result, I expect that the federal forces will very shortly be withdrawn and that the National Guard will be defederalized. While I'm aware of this criticism, I think it's been from a relatively small segment of the population here in Baltimore. The application of force, or the degree of force, is of course a problem that any commander has to wrestle with in a situation of this kind, and I can assure you that I have wrestled with it constantly since I've been here. Obviously, the degree of force that needs to be applied is going to vary with every set of circumstances. Children would have been safe under these kinds of circumstances, neither would any home in the city.
Yes, the
City of Baltimore, various agencies have been working together for many years as a civil defense agency team. And these representatives from the various city agencies and from the private community charitable agencies and relief agencies have been working together. They know each other, they know their plans, and they were not strangers to each other last night by any means.
How long did it take you after the notice of crisis to put the plan into effect?
The plan went into effect right away, and the various agency representatives were on board at the Disaster Control Center in approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes.
How many refugees of this disorder did you serve, and what services are provided?
We have opened up approximately 15 different refugee collection centers throughout the city, which are churches. And we also have one central center at Eastern High School. Anyone needing assistance, either social service assistance, food, beds, lodging, can go to any one of these churches, and they will be in turn transported to Eastern High School, where these facilities are available.
This morning we noticed that that main refugee center at Eastern High was empty except for personnel on duty. Is there any reason for this? How did you serve people last night or people this morning?
No, I think that the fact that it's empty may be from two things. First of all, the center was opened very quickly after the emergency arose. Secondly, it may very well be that the people who were involved last night were able to return to their homes, and that they do have a place to go. And it may well be that we will not need to keep this center in operation.
How long do you plan to keep it in operation? What will determine when or if you close it?
The center will be in operation for the duration of the emergency.
As I reflect back on the incidents of the last few days, I feel that my command here and also the people of Baltimore have been rather fortunate, particularly if we look at the circumstances that existed last Saturday and Sunday, and also compare what happened here with what happened in other cities when they had civil disturbances. I attribute the success of our operations here to several things, but primarily to the splendid cooperation that I have received from all the state and local officials at every level.
General, there has been some criticism about the way the forces at your command handled the looting here. It's been suggested that force should have been met with force.
I can just say that I wish the decision was as simple to me as it is to those people who would not be required to live by their decision. There are a number of factors involved when you come to considering force that I think perhaps people forget. And the first one is the value of life. What value do you attach to life? Is a loaf of bread or a pint of whiskey or a scorched suit or a pair of shoes worth a life? Now, I have 11,000 troops deployed in this city, and it would be up to each one of those individuals to make that decision. And I submit that this is a decision that even the wisest man would have difficulty in making under tense circumstances. Another thing is, we know from experience that when there is firing, indiscriminate firing, that more innocent people have been killed than have the guilty ones. And unfortunately, those that perhaps should be killed almost invariably get away. If you can say anybody should be killed, and I'm not advocating that. Another factor I think that we must consider